Hey folks, Nathan here from Star Wars Beyond the Films, the Star Wars Timeline Gold, and Rebels Roundtable, bringing you a look at another Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars RPG product. This is the second product from Star Wars Age of Rebellion, the Imperial versus Rebel version of their role-playing game, as opposed to Edge of the Empire, which of course was more of on the fringes of society. Now I say it's the second because they did put out a beta rulebook. At this point, as the time I'm recording this, this is, however, the only item that is available, and oh, it does have a lot of stuff in it. It's very similar to the Edge of the Empire beginner game. You initially have your box. Of course, it contains everything. Lots and lots of stuff here. Good to keep stuff in, quite frankly. It's not particularly sturdy, but if you keep it on a bookshelf, you should be okay. And then you've got the different tokens and dice that you need to be able to play before you actually start reading anything. You got the tokens here. They're still in the plastic wrap in this case for me. And these are basically tokens of characters and vehicles that show up in the adventure found in the beginner game. Now, we'll get back to that in a moment. You got your little thing that says, hey, here's some other Fantasy Flight Game stuff that's coming, and they just put that into most of their box products. And then you've got your dice. Of course, you got your 3 ability dice, you got your 2 proficiency dice, that's the green and yellow ones. You've got your difficulty dice, that's the purple ones, 3 of those. Then you've got your 1 red challenge dice, your black, you got 2 of those black setback dice, and then you've got your 2 boost dice along with 1 force die, because you don't really need more than that most of the time. Then with that, you have the Whisper Base map, and on the back of this, you've got locations, if I can flip it correctly here, that are used within the span of that adventure. The Onderon Jungle, the launch pad, and the comm tower. Folds up nicely, but this is where you're going to use those tokens. Say you want the characters in the garage where the mission starts out, you can put some tokens on there to represent where they are located, just as a storytelling aid for those who are new to role-playing games, which is the whole point of a beginner game, right? Now, in order to play, you're going to need characters. And just like with Edge of the Empire's beginner game, they give you some pre-existing characters here, and there is actually a couple more you can download as character folios on the Fantasy Flight Games website. One for Jin Rio, who's a diplomat, and one for the Commander Arken, who is a Bothan. Now here you've got Tendar, the engineer. You've got Kale, the soldier. You have Vendry, the spy. And you have Zal, the ace. And just as was the case previously with Edge of the Empire's beginner game, you open it up, and it not only has stats for the character and all, but it gives you detailed explanations of things you need to know about it. And it goes on for a few pages as the character develops until you finally get to the back. And the back is sort of a data pad looking thing that gives background for that character, which also gives some measure of sense of when this story is going to take place relative to A New Hope and whatnot. But then you got the real meat of it, and all the things that are the real meat of it all tell you when to read it. We have the Read This First sheet, which is basically a quick little starter bit explaining what an RPG is, giving you kind of a neat little scripted out example scenario of players playing the game. And on the back, you have your Takeover at Whisper Base opening crawl, so to speak. Then you've got the adventure book. Read this second. This is the Takeover at Whisper Base adventure, an exclusive adventure to this package. It does have the opening crawl show up here as something to read, but it does pretty much the same thing as what you get with Edge of the Empire, and I love the way that this works. Okay? As you play through, it gives you, as the game master, stuff to read out loud. It gives you a description of the rules that are relevant to that part of storytelling. You're basically learning as you play. And then it gives you side information that gives you a little bit more depth to the rules beyond what is absolutely needed at that moment. So if you are the game master and you're new at this too, as you read this, you'll learn more, but then so will everybody else. I really like the way that plays out. The mission here is on Onderon. You basically have a rebel group that is trying to capture Whisper Base, which is a listening post, so they can use it for the rebels. A little bit more of a Rebel Imperial scenario than we got with Edge of the Empire. Of course, that's the whole point of Age of Rebellion. Runs pretty well. It's got some reference sheet stuff on the back. 32 pages. Fun little adventure. All really set mostly with inside that base, minus a chase near the end. Then once you've done that, you got a sense of the basic rules. You have an abridged rulebook. Now it just says rulebook, but of course this is the basic rules of how to play Age of Rebellion. Now there's going to be a core rulebook coming soon that is massive and hardback. Of course, just like Edge of the Empire. All this really is essentially a rulebook based on the things you ran into with this to give you a sense of how to play so you can jump straight into it if you want to, without waiting for that core rulebook to come around. Then you've got a little sheet. It's got an advertisement for the core rulebook on one side, but the other side says, read this after completing the adventure book. Operation Shadow Point. And basically it's a quick little blurb telling you, hey, go onto the Fantasy Flight Games website. You can download this free PDF of another adventure to carry on with these pre-existing characters here. So you have a lot of stuff, plus you got some online supplement stuff, 3 items, of course, this and the 2 character folios, to let this be a little bit more expansive. I love the way that these products teach people how to play role-playing games. Of course, the downside is if you've already got it for Edge of the Empire, you don't really need the one for Age of Rebellion. But if you want that exclusive adventure, right, take over at Whisper Base, then you're going to have to pick up this package because that's the only place it is available. Plus, hey, you get the map, little tokens, the folios, kind of neat. And of course, you've got your dice, which you can buy separately, but why not just pick up this and get the dice in it? The whole pack tends to run $30 retail, $29.99 I believe it is, but you can get it places like miniaturemarket.com, which is where I usually buy stuff, hence that usually being my comparison, for about 20 plus shipping. A nice little package. I look forward to the core rulebook and future adventures in Age of Rebellion. This certainly is a nice start for it. Definitely more of a feel of the classic trilogy, thanks to it being Empire versus Rebellion, than what we got with Edge of the Empire, which is much more of a setting piece for adventures that don't necessarily deal too much with those 2 particular factions in the galaxy far, far away. Good stuff. Definitely check it out.